What's up, everyone? Welcome to FanDuel sponsored Crunch Time. I'm your host, TJ Zwarch, joined by two of the sharpest minds in the biz. First up, we got my guy, Shiver Me Timbo, Tasteful Tides, Tim Buell. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Always great to do a show with you guys. We had a little bit of news there. It's going to kind of flip this slate around. It was looking like we were going to have to backload everything, but now it's looking like we're going to get some of these 7 o'clock games in our lineups. So it's a little bit different.
And not only do we have an interesting NBA slate, but we actually got a pretty big and interesting NHL slate as well. We got J3 in chat saying, shout out to Tim and his Boston Bruins. All they do is score football-like numbers every game and win J3 money. And so shout out to Tim and those and Tim's Boston Bruins. And we also got another member of the Triple T formation. We got Taylor Smith. How you doing, Taylor?
I'm good. Yeah, still waiting on some news that could kind of flip the slate on its head again, but not sure yet if we'll be getting that during the show or if it'll be a late swap kind of night. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting one. Still waiting on some news, but we got a pretty fun one, so we might as well dive in. Like I mentioned, FanDuel is sponsored by Crunch Time. Bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets for new users in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming. Those of you in the great state of Vermont now have access to this FanDuel Sportsbook as well with a special offer. Bet $5, get $200 in bonus bets on any market. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Let's dive in, shall we? Taylor, why don't you give us a little bit of a overview of what we're looking for?
Yeah, so after his monster night last night, Luka is questionable tonight against Sacramento. That's obviously the biggest news that we're waiting on. That's the latest game of the night, so decent chance we will not get it during the show, but you never know. Kyrie Irving is doubtful again with his thumb injury. Not expecting him to play. Derek Jones and Maxi Kleba also questionable for Dallas, so they could be quite thin or they may not be, depending on what happens. We got LaMelo out, which opens up some value in one of these 7 p.m. games for the Hornets. Giannis likely to play. Mike Conley also questionable. Still waiting on that. But yeah, and Zion as well, questionable after sitting last night. So quite a bit of news still to wait on.
Yeah, so with that being said, why don't we knock some of these ad reads out and hope we get a little bit of news on the way. Check out the props and pick'em package. The experts at the RotoGrinders projections team take our premium stats and comb through the market for any inefficiencies. Using our model, you can easily see which lines are off, where to find them, and how likely the prop will bet based on our tool. You can also now try out the props and pick'em package as a 3-day pass. Note that this will auto-renew at the monthly rate once the 3 days are up. Use the link in our description for a 3-day pass just down below. And of course, use SimLabs to generate DFS lineups through the power of simulation. It combines data from every aspect of the slate to turn out lineups that match your preferences. In just a few clicks, you can have well-built, correlated lineups ready to go for whatever contest type you're playing. Now, including NBA, try out NBA SimLabs for free while it is in beta using the link in our description. All Combo and NFL premium subscribers now have access. Why don't we start going through FanDuel cash lineup here, then we'll do GPPs, then we'll do DraftKings, and then, of course, we'll take QQs first from the RotoGrinders Discord and then from YouTube. So smash that like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell. It does so much for us, so make sure you're smashing that like button. Taylor, why don't you start us off with the point guard position?
Will do. So if Luka plays, obviously he's phenomenal. Without Kyrie, matchup against Sacramento is a good one. The back-to-back, I guess, is a little concerning since he had to go all out last night, but the usage is going to be there no matter what. He's still a really hard fade if he does play tonight. Through his ankle injury, I think you can just plug him into your cash lineup and pivot accordingly. Probably on both sides. FanDuel 12-2, not cheap, but he's Luka, and he put up 100 last night, so that's possible. I tagged Nick Smith as a core play on FanDuel. He's 4-1 or 3-9, I believe. Point guard, shooting guard eligible, even if he doesn't start with LaMelo out. Should see plenty of minutes. They're obviously also without Rozier and Gordon Hayward. So plenty of minutes in the backcourt for him and Ish Smith, in theory. I don't think we have either to start, but the minutes will be fine both. I think you can play both unless you're playing Nick at shooting guard, if you're playing Ish and Luka at point guard. Dante Exum, another point guard, shooting guard, you can play with Kyrie out, should see 30-ish minutes. Possibly gets more if Lucas sits, of course. Damian Lillard is fine. 8-7 on FanDuel is pretty cheap for him. Gets a usage boost with Chris Middleton out for the Bucks. Don't mind that. Josh Green is shooting guard, small forward eligible. Big minutes last night for him. Should have a good role tonight with Kyrie still out for the Mavs. I guess Malik Beasley and Malik Monk are kind of in play as fringy cash options, but not something I'm in love with doing tonight. Miles Bridges gets a big usage boost with LaMelo out. He and Brandon Miller are both around 30% on the season. He's also playing around 40 minutes a night. This game has a wide spread with Charlotte on a back-to-back, but it is a good pace-up spot for the Hornets. That's kind of it at small forward. It's a really ugly position. I guess you can consider Trey Murphy if Zion is out again. He started last night. Jaden McDaniels, kind of a last piece filler for Minnesota. Power forward Bobby Portis. We have him popping into lineups for just 5-4. Potential for a few more minutes for him with Middleton out. Not a bad spot for them against New Orleans. Pretty tight spread in that one. Sabonis for 10-4 looks great. Dallas against Biggs is awful. Quite shorthanded in the front court these days. He's a good spend for 10-4 on FanDuel. Draymond Green, Zion, maybe. If you go there, I don't think that's a bad thing. Jaden McDaniels over here as well. And then at center, likely Sabonis or Portis. Derek Lively for 6K flat, I think is fine because Powell's out. Kleba's questionable. Should have a path to minutes, and he's relatively affordable.
All right. I like it. Sorry, I was kind of late on some of the screen share swapping there. But Tim, who you liking in GPPs today? We can start at the point guard position. And then obviously you can talk about single entry where you yourself are playing. And then if large field stuff, you see something you really like, feel free to dive into that as well.
Yeah, so I mean, we got to start with Luka, right? Even on FanDuel at 12-2, I think he's just an amazing spot. Assuming that he plays, it's not really somebody that I want to fade in single entry or even large field GPPs. So I mean, Luka is really the first stud in for me. I mean, obviously he's not going to go for 100 every single night, but when your median projection is 65 and you're in a really good matchup, like, I mean, he could easily put up 80, 85 in this spot and nobody would be surprised at all. So Luka's my first spend up. I think that we have Ish projected to start. I agree with Taylor that you should be playing Nick Smith at shooting guard, not point guard. But I don't mind Ish in tournaments. Damian Lillard, I think, and Steph Curry are two guys that I think are not going to get maybe enough attention because I think a lot of people are going to go way up and then way down when they do their spends. So like 16% for Steph Curry on FanDuel. I guess Lillard's getting a little bit more ownership than I thought, but I think those two are going to be pretty strong tournament plays. So I don't mind either one of them. And then TJ and I were talking before the show. De'Aaron Fox, he's gonna be under 10% owned. A lot of people are gonna play Sabonis for the Kings and getting leverage off of Sabonis chalk. I'm not saying Sabonis is a bad play, but just to get some leverage in large field GPPs, I think De'Aaron Fox is a fantastic GPP play. Moving over to shooting guard. This is where I think you kind of eat that value with Nick Smith at 3,900, rating out as their top point per dollar play. This should finally be a spot where they kind of let him go loose and play over 25 minutes. So he should easily pay off that price tag. I didn't mention D'Angelo Russell. Again, I think he's better in your shooting guard. Jordan Clarkson, again, probably better at shooting guard. I think getting to a Celtic in tournaments like Derek White or Jaylen Brown in large field is going to be a pretty contrarian play. Josh Green as a value piece at 4,800 if you need the savings. He might be better at small forward than shooting guard though, but still he's small forward shooting guard. But Josh Green is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, salary relief tournament play today. Small forward, Miles Bridges. He's going to be like the main guy. He's projected to play like 37, 38 minutes. This is a really good matchup. I mean, if they get blown out, I don't know if he's really going to get that full amount, but assuming this game can stay close, Miles Bridges should absolutely crush. So I think that he is another one of these Charlotte guys. I mean, he's the guy that I'm most confident in that can, really achieve like a massive ceiling. So, I mean, if they can stay competitive in this game, he should do quite well. Brandon Miller, again, with the Charlotte team, 7,400. Not as strong of a play as Bridges, but I think he's completely viable. Like I mentioned, Josh Green for the Mavericks. I love them as a value. Tatum and LeBron. They're both going to be really, really low owned. I don't know if I love the spot for Tatum, but he's, ownership kind of reflects that. We know that he has a ceiling. Same thing with LeBron. That's like an interesting way of getting contrarian. But I think another way of getting contrarian is playing Anthony Edwards. He's currently projected for about 5% ownership on FanDuel right now. The worry that we have with that game is blowout. So if the Spurs can somehow keep that game close, Anthony Edwards should absolutely crush. And then going over to power forward, Sabonis is going to be extremely popular. I absolutely love him today. He's going to be it's looking at like around 27% owned on FanDuel. He's a top play. I mean, there's no question about it. He's not just center eligible on FanDuel. He's also power forward eligible, which is huge. I think in single entry, I'm going to play him. I can understand maybe being underweight him in large field, but not. I mean, I think this is such a good spot for him. So it really kind of depends on what you want to do. This is a very, very important decision that you're going to have to make on the slate. I definitely would side on playing him, but he's going to be extremely, extremely popular. Taylor mentioned Bobby Portis. Very good value play at the power forward position. And then all these other spend up power forwards, like I mentioned at small forward, like AD, Giannis, Tatum, James. Those guys are all going to go very, very low owned. Cat at 88.
Giannis could be the guy that takes his turn at 100 fantasy points tonight at single digit ownership.
Yes, exactly. And also like, Karl Anthony Towns. He's going to be under 10%. He's only 8,800. I mentioned if somehow that game can be, somewhat close, a couple of these Minnesota guys are going to go completely off. So definitely want to look at those guys in large field. And then center, strictly guys that are only center eligible. I would say Rudy Gobert and Derek Lively are my two favorite. I think Brook Lopez is kind of interesting for large field. You can play Sabonis at center. You can play AD at center. Draymond, I think, is pretty interesting tonight. I think he's going to be more popular probably on DK, but I think any of these guys are viable for GPPs.
We have a question in chat that I think is going to be very important for a lot of people. We did get confirmation that Ish Smith is starting, and
Yep.
so Derek asked, "Can we play Ish and Nick Smith together in the same lineup?" Taylor, for cash, are they both cash viable?
Yeah, definitely both cash viable.
And Tim, what do you think? Can you roster them both together in tournaments?
I think so.
All right, I like it. Let's transition over here to DraftKings. Smash that like button. Let's get these likes way up. We got almost 300 people watching and nowhere near enough likes. All you got to do is click the little button. You're watching on your phone, click hide chat, then click the like button, pull the chat back up. It's nice and easy, and it's a really big deal for us. We want to keep doing shows on weekends. We want to keep doing shows for small slates. And to do that, got to keep the sponsor happy. And one of the ways to make that happen is the like button. So smash that like button for us. And let's go. We got a DraftKings cash build here. Taylor, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, so the core players are Luka and Draymond. Like Tim said, Draymond is going to be popular on DK. It's only 5.5. Still has a path to 30-ish minutes. Still productive per minute. So good spot for him. He's just underpriced. And Luka is Luka, and he's underpriced if he plays. Another point guard you can consider, Ish Smith, of course, now in play for cash now that we know he's starting. He's cheap. He's 3.8, so that's the obvious case for him. Nick Smith should see the minutes too. I think he's small forward shooting guard, though, on DK, which is interesting. Gives him a little more value. A few more to consider. D'Angelo Russell, 6'8", arguably not quite expensive enough for the role he's playing these days. Pretty good value there. And Mike Conley, if he's in, is only 5'3". The T-Wolves have that good spot against the Spurs tonight. If he plays, he looks good. If he doesn't, Alexander Walker, once again, will be a pretty good value, especially for cash. Shooting guard, mentioned Nick Smith. Kevin Huerter looks good. He's 4'9", been starting lately. The Hornets are a great matchup for the Kings tonight. I mean, they're playing the Mavs. Another good matchup for them. Austin Reeves, maybe. Do prefer D'Lo there between the Laker guards. Klay Thompson, I guess borderline cash viable. Really not much here. I think it's really just Huerter and Nick Smith are the main guys at shooting guard tonight. Nick Smith again at small forward looks fine. Jay Crowder's 3-1. Should see a few more minutes with Middleton out, even if he doesn't start for the Bucks. Just because he's so cheap and we don't often get players this cheap, I think you can play him in cash. Kind of a similar argument for Taurean Prince for 3.9. Cam Reddish is out. We had Prince at 30 minutes. I think he's viable as a punt. I prefer him to Chris Dunn in the same range just because Dunn's minutes have been really shaky, even as a starter. Josh Green, again, just like last night, looks good in the mid-range or the mid-range sub 5K value types. Looks fine there. Let's see. Power forward Draymond, of course. Miles Bridges looks good. Tons of usage under 8K. Naz Reid is only 4.2. If you want to play the blowout angle in particular, he could really thrive here against San Antonio. I don't think you're wrong to play Wemby. He's 8.6. He's Wemby. He's definitely underpriced on DK for what he can do. It's not an easy spot. It's probably the worst possible spot against Minnesota, but you're just taking advantage of the price tag there on him and his permanent production. Giannis, Karl-Anthony Towns. LeBron is only 9.1 and AD is only 10K. They are underpriced every single time they're on a slate on DK. I think they're viable in cash. Giannis is the one you want if you have all the money in the world, of course. And at center, Draymond you can play here. Bridges. Nick Richards is underpriced for 5.2, I think, on DK. Playing a big role with Mark Williams out. Don't mind Reed here if you're looking for savings. Derek Lively again, just like on FanDuel. Squarely in play as a value center on DK. And Sabonis, again, I think he's 10K flat over here. Dallas front court getting ravaged every night. If you have money at center, I think Sabonis is a nice, cheaper alternative to Giannis.
All right. I like it. Tim, who we playing today in tournaments?
Yeah. What do you guys think if Conley sits? Who starts in his place? Would it be Nah?
Alexander Walker again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's been
yeah,
starting
okay.
lately in that scenario.
Okay, yeah, because Conley was a midday questionable, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit concerned about that spot. But yeah. So DraftKings, not a whole heck of a lot different than FanDuel. 11.6 is simply it's actually really just too cheap for Luka. He's going to be even higher owned on DK than he was on FanDuel. I still don't see much of a reason to fade him. I know that it's a back-to-back, but his ceiling is just so high that I can't tell people not to play him. I love D'Angelo Russell. I think Steph Curry again is going to be kind of the forgotten guy at 9-1. I think that that game could end up being pretty interesting and pretty contrarian, that Lakers Warriors game. So I like that. Ish Smith, if you need the salary. There's obviously builds that you don't necessarily have to play him. Obviously in GPPs, you never have to play somebody like Ish Smith, but if you need the salary, then he's a good guy to get to. Shooting guard, Nick Smith is your guy. 4K, Kevin Herter 4,900. I really like Anthony Edwards, especially on DK. I like him on FanDuel too, but on DK is an even better play in my opinion. Brandon Miller, same thing. I think he's a stronger play on DK than on FanDuel, but he should be in line for a ton of minutes. So I think he could absolutely crush that $6,100 price tag. Malik Monk in the best game of the night at 6K. He's a really strong play as well. Small forward. I've already mentioned Nick Smith. I think Jaden McDaniels is definitely just getting exposure to the Spurs. I think is a really, really smart idea. So you can do it cheaply. I think that's a good way to go about it. 4,500 for him. Jason Tatum, he's going to be like 10% owned. Again, not the best matchup, but I mean, it's a way to get different. LeBron James is 9,100 on DK, and he's not getting a ton of ownership. So, I mean, that, doing like a Curry LeBron stack with some like mid-range, like Mavs Spurs guys, I think is like just a way to do something in large field GPPs. Maybe not single entries, but I think that's a different way to build that gets away from a ton of ownership, and you don't lose a ton of medium projection either. So I think that's an interesting way to build for large field GPPs. Power forward, yeah, Draymond's definitely going to be the chalk guy at 55. Miles Bridges, I absolutely love. Just like I said on FanDuel, Giannis is a lot easier to get to on DK. I would prefer either just playing Luka and Sabonis, or going down to Anthony Davis, or LeBron or Cat. But obviously it's Giannis. Like he can break any slate. And then Karl Anthony Towns is only 8,100 against the Spurs. Power forward's actually a pretty strong position tonight. And then I think it was Taylor that mentioned if you want to play the blowout angle, you could go Naz Reid as a super cheap option at power forward. And then going to center, Sabonis is by far my favorite center play. Again, he's going to get ownership, but I think he's pretty strong chalk. But like I talked about on FanDuel, I forgot to mention De'Aaron Fox, but he's a great pivot to get some leverage off of Sabonis in large field tournaments. And then Rudy Gobert, 7,400. Nobody ever likes to play Gobert, but this is an amazing matchup for him. So I think getting to Gobert in tournaments is a good play.
Couldn't agree more. I'm having trouble filling out my last piece on DraftKings Cash. I got $5,600 remaining for a guard or a forward, and there's just really not anywhere to go.
What was it?
5,600 remaining for a shooting guard or a small forward. And it's just a complete dead zone.
Herder, he's way under 5'6", though. Trey Murphy, if that news breaks, perhaps.
That's actually not a bad idea. Leave it at Herder for now. $700 is on the table is more than I'd rather leave on there for cash, but I think there are worse things to do.
He's a good play no matter what.
Yeah. All right. We'll leave that in there for now, and I can adjust after lock. Let's start taking some questions here. We got 14 minutes left to lock. Lots of time. I will start first with the RotoGrinders Discord live stream chat, then going to the YouTube chat after that. Make sure you are smashing that like button. We did get Zach Collins listed as out, so he was questionable, and he is not going to be playing. First things first with some questions. DK single entry. Would you make a rule to only use one of the Charlotte Smiths in lineups? Tim, you don't think you need to make that rule in tournaments?
I don't think so. I definitely understand the reasoning. I think I'm most concerned with Ish Smith's ceiling because he's going to be sharing the court with all the more of the normal starting fives. But I think that he still is going to play enough minutes where he can be GPP optimal, and Smith too. So I don't think you have to do that.
I concur. On FanDuel, should I take the approach of backloading my lineups and ignoring the 7 p.m. games? What do you think, Taylor?
I think at least one Smith should probably be in there. If you're playing cash, it's definitely two of them on FanDuel. But if it's tournament, I also think Miles Bridges is like an awesome play, like Tim was saying. You can just plug in 2 Hornets perhaps and wait if you want to do that. I don't love the idea of fully fading the 7 p.m. games, though.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. I currently just have the one player in my lineup from that set is it's just the Nick Smith off the bench, because then my hope is kind of, even if he'll probably succeed, if that game gets ugly, that probably means more minutes for him. So that's kind of how I'm going with it. And then I'm just playing a absolute ton of of Kings and Mavericks, looking a full game stack. That one. FanDuel Cash, LeBron and Dame, or Luka and Lively. I'm not even passing that to you, Taylor, because that is Luka and Lively. Fox's updated projected ownership is just getting lower and lower. Best play on DraftKings, $5,400 or under, Tim.
Best play, 5,400 or under. I don't want to say Mike Conley because I'm not really I don't really want to play him, and I think he might sit. Man, that's such a weird. How much is Lively? Lively 4,900. Yeah.
All right, we got I was gonna say either Lively or Nick Smith there. FanDuel single entry, Wiggins or Barnes as a last piece, Taylor.
I think Harrison Barnes has been slaying the last 2 games, but I think it's
and now it's revenge.
He does have revenge.
He's on his revenge tour right now.
Yeah, back-to-back revenge. If you want to play the revenge angle, I guess that's Barnes, but I would lean Wiggins, though I don't feel really confident in that pick.
I go Barnes, actually. I just don't like. I'm off. I can't play Wiggins right now. He has actually been a little bit better lately, though, too. Keontae George as a pivot off of Ish Smith in tournaments. What do you think, Tim?
I don't mind it. They're projected somewhat similarly, so I think that's okay.
I think that makes an interesting play to kind of stack with Nick Smith, and both of them probably play a little bit more in a blowout. So if you already have Nick Smith and you want to fade Ish Smith, I think Keontae is a nice little addition there to that stack. TJ, can you go a little bit more in depth on Boston's rotation minus Porzingis, and if we are safe to add as a last piece in parlay money line? There's not that much to do. Horford is starting in his place, and he's going to play a lot more minutes, and then Cornette's going to be the backup center. They're favored by 7 points without Porzingis. I don't actually know how, or I guess you said money line. I don't know. I wouldn't add them in there. I think it's a little bit. You're probably not getting very good You're probably not getting a very good amount on that considering they're 7-point favorites. DK GPP, any interest in John Collins or Mason Plumlee as value plays, Taylor?
I did have a lot more Plumlee than I wanted. That's why I'm actually readjusting my lineups right now. I do think Plumlee's viable, but I don't want to get a ton of him.
DK GPP, FanDuel Cash, actually. At small forward, I have Beasley right now. If Conley sits, can I pivot to Alexander Walker?
Yeah, yes, definitely.
Yeah, I could not agree
more. You should do that. 100% do that.
Not just you can, but you should.
You should.
I would agree with that as well. What do we got here? Looking at questions on YouTube now. Do we have enough value to play 2 of the 3 of who? I'm not sure who we're looking for here.
I think what he was asking is like 2 out of the 3 like expensive guys like Luka, maybe Sabonis, and I think that we do definitely.
2, absolutely. Yeah, I actually tried to get 3 and I couldn't do it, but 2, absolutely you do. Last piece, single entry on Yahoo, $16 or less.
Lively.
You got Lively on that one already. Perfect.
Yeah.
I have a question for DraftKings tournaments. What game to stack and how many players? Definitely either Utah and Charlotte or Sacramento and Dallas. Those are the 2 top stacking options by far. In my single entry right now, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players from Sacramento and Dallas. I also made a bunch of same game parlays with a bunch of players from that game. What do we got left here? DK GPP, last piece, Tim. $4,400 or less, not named Smith.
On DK?
Yeah.
Okay. We already talked about Keontae George as an interesting pivot. I think I'd like to find. Oh man, I wish they had $100 for Josh Green.
What position was it? Utah?
Yeah.
Nas Reed, maybe.
Nas Reed.
Oh, okay, that's a good one. Yeah.
What do you think about Rashawn Holmes as a dead minimum punt, Taylor?
I don't think so. No.
Did he play last night?
We have him projected for 1 minute. So
7 minutes left.
I can't recommend that.
No, 7 minutes left to walk. Make sure you get your questions in. Make sure you get your likes up, and make sure you get your lineup set and ready to go. FanDuel single entry, power forward, last spot, $5,100 or less, Tim.
That's tough. That's another tough one. 5,100 or less. There really isn't anybody that I like. Like Jaden McDaniels is 53. Portis is 54. Like it's really dead. It's very, very dead. I guess maybe Kelly Olynyk, but I don't think that's a very good play.
Nas and then pay up for something else, maybe.
Well, yeah, that's what I would get up to somebody else, because it's really dead down there.
All right, going back to the YouTube chat, is Taurean Prince starting tonight? I believe we are currently expecting Taurean Prince to start. He almost always starts for them, so I don't see why not. John Collins on DraftKings, Taylor, what do you think?
Yeah, that's fine. He's 5'4". Great matchup. So yeah, I think he's fine.
Where are the animals tonight, TJ? I don't know. Why aren't any of them down here? I guess they're all upstairs with my wife right now. Dean after lock wants to see if TJ can talk Tim into finally seeing a Star Wars movie. I don't see why that would have to wait for after lock, considering we got 5 minutes left and there's no questions left. But I don't think I need to convince Tim to do anything he doesn't want to do. If Tim is happy, I want Tim to be happy. I don't want to try and force him into anything. FanDuel pivots for all of these questionable players: Conley, Zion, Doncic, etc. That's a pretty big question, my friend. Are you asking a direct pivot as to who you can play if they get ruled out as a quick player swap? Are you asking who are the top plays if those guys are out? Elaborate that one on a little bit. Simone Fontecchio and Chris Dunn okay as runbacks on DraftKings if you're playing a lot of Charlotte. What do you think, Tim?
I think so. I prefer Fontecchio over Don, but they're both okay.
Is Miles Bridges in play? Absolutely. Miles Bridges, I think, is one of the better plays on the slate. Hoosiers Hang Banners is curious if Tim is a flat earther. I don't think so. Tim's too smart for that.
I'd be more into Kyrie if that were the case. So
great setup by Dean, only to have TJ miss the oop. Problem is, J3, Dean was on the other team, so he threw up that trash, and I just swatted it out of here. It wasn't an oop, it was a blocked shot. Lively or Plumlee on DraftKings? That is definitely lively. Wemby over points and rebounds. I don't know. What's his line? Eric, you got to give us a little more detail there. Do we have a lean on Luka? I think our lean is that Luka plays. And there was a quick player swap question from Montero in the DraftKings in the Discord chat. So was that on FanDuel or on FanDuel? A straight line pivot from Luka Doncic. If he gets ruled out, who are you looking to play, Tim?
Well, given the fact that that's, I believe, the last game of the night, there is no direct pivot. You're gonna have to go and maybe just go to Fox or play Sabonis. But yeah,
especially because there's nobody else in that price range at the point
right. Yeah, there is no direct pivot from Luka.
So you're looking for a 2v2, but you're probably getting De'Aaron Fox in there. For Zion Williamson, if you're playing him and he gets ruled out, you just make a swap if you have the money to Brandon Ingram for $200 more. Otherwise, you're going down to Draymond Green or Keegan Murray. And then what do you think? Who's your favorite play? If somebody's playing Conley and he gets ruled out, Taylor, who are you looking to pivot to?
Let me see. Obviously, Alexander Walker is the direct pivot. I don't know if he's the same position. Let's see if he is.
If you got $100 more, maybe Malik Monk.
Yeah, I like Malik Monk a lot. That's a good call.
And then down, I guess the answer would be Dante Exum would be down who you're going to. Would you fade Giannis and Luka on FanDuel Cash, Taylor?
Nope.
Luka, you're playing. Giannis, you probably don't need.
Yeah, Luka's the one you want. I guess if that news comes out before the Bucks start, you do get Giannis and then pivot down from Luka to Hardy or whoever.
Fox and Grant Williams or Curry and Rui, Tim?
It's got to be Fox and Grant Williams.
Couldn't agree more. What do you think about Brandon Miller on DraftKings? Love some Brandon Miller on DraftKings.
I really like him. I really like him and Bridges.
Yeah. Minute and a half left to lock. Make sure you get your lineups in. It's coming right down to the wire. Dean wants to know, Tim, if you have a favorite hockey money line tonight.
Ooh, I don't know. I don't want to tell him because then he'll mush me. So
exactly. Nice try, Dean.
Even if I had one. Yeah.
Jazz 10 points favorites on the road. Something I never thought I would say this year. Yeah, no kidding. Minute left to lock. Get those lineups in. Keep your finger on the pulse for news because we are still waiting on some important stuff. Mike Conley, Luka Doncic, Zion Williamson, all of this stuff is going to be coming after lock. So make sure you are keeping your finger on the pulse. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. We will be back tomorrow for NFL content. It'll be myself, Tim, and Will Priester, the Chief. And then for NBA, we will be back as well. It'll be Tim, myself, and Christy. So thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. And we will see you again tomorrow on behalf of myself, Taylor, and Tim. Peace out.